would try to see to even like show up like during the weekend. That's like the only thing.
Beautiful. Irene, great job. And the next step would be, would it be, going to the dentist that would be better, or a cup of coffee, maybe smoking a bowl with Mark and mother. I don't even know what that means exactly, but okay. Having dinner, flying on a private
That
jet.
even sounds weird coming out of your mouth.
I've never smoked on my lip. Arunya, what would that next step? Maybe playing chess. Maybe playing chess for like a 2000, like a 2200 or 2400 level on like, Wii chess or something. Like, what would the next step be, Arunya?
I mean, for me, or in general in life, or
No,
for
in this scenario, like the level at which that all happened with Ricardo, what would you say that would be the appropriate level of draw for somebody in Bella's shoes? Would it be any of those things? Like which of those?
well, I think it definitely should be a meeting, and whatever meeting it might be, as long as you can get connected on a personal level.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah. And what we're trying to represent, Arun and everybody, is how successfully Ricardo or Mark were influencing like the level of, yeah, like it would be like a dinner. Nah, it would be like just a phone call, something. So Arunya, thank you for that. Or maybe it could be like heading to the gulag or somewhere because it was so awful. But Mark and Ricardo weren't like that at all. They did a wonderful job. So Bella Rita, yes.
That is fun. Let's go. Eli. Eli, how about your 30 seconds of feedback for Mark?
Oh, for Mark? I think, when you're dealing with smoking, you're dealing with a really tough subject of somebody who's just very stubborn. And that person is probably not going to wake out of that, slumber unless you do something that's really dramatic. And what I would do personally, literally take somebody to a hospice where somebody has been a smoker their whole life and see what condition they're in. Because just trying to talk him into going to a Tony Robbins meeting or something like that, I'm sure he's rejected that a million times, which is where he is. So he's got a deep-rooted issue. And the only way to, in my opinion, to get around that is to literally show him somebody who regrets having smoked their entire life.
Cool. Well, thank you for that for sure. Eli, Bella Rita, we're talking powerful disruptions, recreating patterns and frames. Please, Bella.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Eli. And let's go, Patrick. Patrick, how about your 30 seconds of feedback for Ricardo?
If I'm going to be brutally honest, because that's just generally the way I'm wired and that's the way I coach, is you're coming across as much too transactional. If I compare your conversation with Mark's conversation, one of the things that I liked about Mark's conversation is Mark's conversation obviously is different because it's between two brothers, not with a client. It's much more human. It's much more warm. It's much more personal. And the reality is kind of like people hate being sold to. It doesn't matter what country you're in. It doesn't matter what culture you're in. People just don't like salespeople because they don't like being sold to, right? And so I think, you might want to think about, how do you really actually get to understand who's this person? Why are they selling the house? What are their aspirations with the money that they're going to get from selling the house? What are they going to do with that money? What are their dreams? How do I connect with this person at a personal, deeper level? How do I really get to know them? And you're only going to figure that out by asking questions, right? Hopefully open-ended questions, what I call powerful questions, as opposed to close-ended yes/no questions, right? So,
and so what's the next step, Patrick?
I think the next step is really trying to meet this person over coffee, trying to really kind of like ask more personal questions, trying to understand why they're selling the house, what do they want to do with the money, what matters to them, how many kids.
Coffee, would that be mocha chocolate latte? Like that's our invented fancy coffee drink coffee. So am I hearing Patrick mocha chocolate latte?
Whatever coffee, rocks their boat, right? And even try and get interested in why they like that particular coffee. I don't know, right? But it's like get to know the person, right? And when you get to know them and you come across authentically, I think the world, especially here in this country, we're starved for authenticity, man. There's so much bullshit all the time. People want authentic. That's why they see Tony. I mean, I was at the same event. this past weekend at UPW. And that's one of the things I love about Tony is he is 100% authentic. He is the way you see him. And that's why people love him. He tells you what he sees. He tells you the way it is. He doesn't sugarcoat it. You need a
Amen.
lot more of that.
Thank you, Patrick. Bella, that reminds me of you. Let's go.
Let's go. Glenn Wagstaff, how about your 30 seconds of feedback for Mark?
So Mark, you were super vulnerable and very I think you connected on a very personal level. I don't know if you normally have conversations like that with your brother. And so, I think it may have come across a little bit unfamiliar, strange, maybe as kind of the residual effect of the event that you were at, and connecting with somebody that that well. I think a lot of times connecting with them the way you normally would, and then bring in the kind of the somberness after the fact, right? Could be useful for setting the tone. But I think you did a great job, and I would definitely. For something like this, I think you did a good enough job. I'd probably fly out. Yeah.
Let's go. Glenn Wagstaff, jumping on planes. I'm hearing it, Bella. Glenn, you know what time it is, because we're going to get real right now, and my butt's going on the hot seat. Let's go, Bella.
That is true. So Glenn, as you know, but everyone, this is the time in the show that I have the honor and the privilege of putting my co-host on the hot seat, because he has no idea what is coming. I cooked these scenarios up as the show has been going on, excuse me. And Glenn, as you know, you get to choose one of these scenarios. You can change anything about the scenarios, or you can scrap them and come up with something much, much harder on your own. Are you ready to hear what I have for today, Glenn?
Yeah.
All right, I was having a little fun on some Fun Friday, and Eli mentioned the Johnny Carson show, so I did a little research, and Johnny Carson and Wayne Newton had a huge feud over the purchase of the Aladdin Hotel, where Carson was like making jokes about Newton's masculinity and all the things. And so option number one, we're going to go back in time, and Sean would play the role of Wayne Newton, going from hello to yes with Johnny Carson to end their feud and invest in a hotel together. So that is option number one. Option number two is we could do a reverse role play. Sean could role play Mark, and Sean could go from hello to yes with Mark's brother. That's option number two. And then option number three, Glenn, is we'll pretend that Tony Robbins has a home in New York that he may need to list. And so Sean could role play Ricardo, going from hello to yes with Tony Robbins to list his New York mansion. So those are the three options I have for you today, Glenn. Any of those tickle your fancy, or do you have something much harder you would like to see Sean do?
I kind of like the third one. Let's say, actually, instead of listing the mansion, let's see if Sean can convince Tony to buy an island.
Ooh, nice. And then who should play the role of Tony Robbins here today, Glenn?
Well, let's say Eli.
Eli, are you up for playing Tony Robbins?
Let's go get him.
Let's go get him.
And I'm Mark.
You are Ricardo, and you're going to go from hello to yes with Tony to buy an island.
Hi, is Mr. Robbins available?
Yes, you got him.
Hey, Mr. Robbins. Ricardo, we had a 3-minute conversation scheduled for today. Is still a good time for you?
Absolutely.
Hey, Mr. Robbins, I know that you know who you are.
Tony.
I know who you are. Oh, Tony, I'm sorry, missed that. So Tony, and I'm super grateful for the opportunity. 2 minutes and 45 seconds of counting. I'm clear. But if I could ask you, what prompted you to say yes to me? People are calling you all the time with stuff. What is the reason that I've been graced with this opportunity?
Well, I hear that you have a lot of expertise in real estate, and that I own an island, the Fijis, and so I'd love to hear what's on your mind there, Sean.
Yeah, well, and again, this is Ricardo, but thank you. I do know I was on the show with your friend Sean Callaghan, as you've called him from stage. But Tony, may I ask this, like, what's the why at this point? I know you have Fiji. I know you have this like huge mission, vision, purpose that you're super comfortable in South Florida. But what's sort of the unfulfilled why, and how might an island fit into that for you?
Well, that's why I'm here to listen to you, Ricardo, so that you can create that why for me. I'm not 100% sure that's something in a direction I want to go into, but I understand you've got a lot of expertise, and let's hear what your thoughts are and why I should own that.
Okay. So from that place then, Mr. Robbins, Tony, what I've heard you say is that you're concerned about the current state of America and the divide. Ray Dalio, who speaks on your stage, talks about a 35% chance with his artificial intelligent computers of a civil war. I know you have Fiji. Fiji is an unstable place. I do know, as you've mentioned, but I've also heard from a lot of people around the ecosystem, and I've signed all the confidentiality agreements that you really don't go to Fiji anymore. So here's a thought. There's an island, Buck Island, that is in a place that one of your confidants and investment folks, along with Sean Callaghan, along with Tim Ballard from Operation Underground Railroad, all went to take a look at for you about 2 years ago. And Brittany Turner at the time was sort of in a little bit of a different place, the one who owns it. And that island, which is fully accessible from Florida, but if God forbid there's ever a problem, Mr. Robbins, it is so profoundly and beautifully isolated. Other than trying to get halfway around the world and perhaps somewhere in the general vicinity of, I don't know, Tahiti and one of these out islands over there, a very fast exit factor from Florida, if there's ever problems for you and your family, to create a tremendous amount of safety, would be this Buck Island. It's not far. It's about a quarter mile, as you know, as well, from your colleague, Richard Branson's Necker Island. And it is fabulous, spectacular, the rooms, the space, all the things that you would love. But what I'm really speaking into is something you talk a lot about with your inner sanctum, which is safety and escape factor if, God forbid, there's a real problem. I mean, and the island itself is mountainous, gorgeous, beautiful, all those things. So, Mr. Robbins, I know we're getting close to time. My question is, how would it resonate with you or not for me to pick up the tab for your private jet or fly you on any private jet, be happy to do it, to take you back to Buck Island or take you to Buck Island, this would be your first trip, and to scout it out. And what I'd be willing to do, Mr. Robbins, as I've spoken, again, to your colleague, Sean Callaghan, he's saying that he believes this would be a very worthwhile trip. But besides picking up all of the fees for your trip over, if you decide that this is a waste of your time, not that you have to go all the way through with buying the island, he would donate $250,000 to the Anthony Robbins Foundation. So, Mr. Robbins, very simply, how would it resonate with you or not to at least have a 30-minute conversation about putting some details to that vision of taking a look at Buck Island and any other potential islands that might meet your needs for an escape place in the event that things really go run into a bad direction in the United States? Mr. Robbins, please.
Well, Ricardo, that was a mouthful for sure. And let me ask you two questions. One is, as you know, I like to do events, and we're going to do mega events. And so I'd like to know how many people you think that island can actually host. And two is, how much are we talking about?
Sure. So, Mr. Robbins, mega events would not be Buck Island. This will be more of a sanctuary for you and Sage and Violet, your beautiful new daughter, and Mary B and your family. If we're looking to do something a little bit larger, we could have a conversation with Richard Branson. There are some other islands in the Caribbean potentially that will be purchasable. But right now, Buck Island will be sitting in the vicinity of $40 million, which is less than half of the value of just your home in Palm Beach right now, which I know is pushing up towards $100 million valuation. And so, this spot would be more sanctuary than larger scale. But if you're interested, we could certainly get together and I could map out some larger scale project islands to do events. Mr. Robbins, any thoughts?
Well, Ricardo, I like the fact that you're going to contribute to the Tony Robbins Fund at the tune of $250,000. So let's set up some time and let's take a look.
All right. Well, thank you, sir. I know how busy you are. And shall I set that up with your assistant, James?
Yes, please do so.
Thank you. Have a blessed day. And we'll talk soon, Tony. Thank you very much and happy Thanksgiving to your
family. Ricardo.
Thank you. All right, out of roll, Ricardo. Thanks for letting me be you. And how did I do as you in that little scenario talking to Tony Robbins?
Well, you had a lot of information prepped about the person already. Something I'm not really too familiar with, I guess, because I'm dealing with a lot of different people. But I guess
Well, the question was, how did I do as you if you're talking to Tony Robbins?
I mean, I liked it. The conversation was good. I think it was very, and you portrayed me good.
Cool. Awesome. And Ricardo, what's your ultimate vision for your business right now? So if you could have it all your way, create anything you want to create, what would that look like for you?
So right now, my goal is to expand my business to where I'm able to afford multi-unit properties and other states or here locally, just any opportunity that would present itself. So it'd be to scale my business from little to nothing to having multiple streams of income, passive income, and stuff like that.
Cool. Awesome. Well, love the thought, love the vision, infinitely achievable. And how was your time overall today, Ricardo, on Glenn Wagstaff's Heart of Influence?
It was definitely it was different. It was a different experience. I enjoyed it a lot. It's awesome to have people with like minds that we're all just trying to be better and improve. And the feedback was amazing. It's very honest, which I appreciate because sometimes when you ask for feedback from people, they kind of pull the punches and it hinders you whether you know it or not. So it was nice to get like good criticized feedback.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for that. Appreciate you, Ricardo. Wonderful work. Let's go, Patrick. Appreciate you being here. Your heart and desire, of course, for authenticity. We talk about integrity-based human influence, full alignment there. And Patrick, how was your time today on Glenn Wagstaff's Heart of Influence?
It was interesting. To be honest, I didn't know really what to expect. So, I came in here, didn't really have any expectations, just to meet new and interesting folks. I wasn't really sure what the format was or what my role was going to be, to be honest, but it was interesting to see the role play, hear people's different reactions, get exposure to it, meet interesting people. So yeah, interesting.
Very cool. So Patrick, what do you do to generate new potential clients?
I think part of what I do is I do VIP invitation only workshops. So, I have a very, very clear idea who my ICP is. I'm fortunate and blessed to have a large network of people, all over the world, through my time in Silicon Valley and business school network and others. So, I look through my lists and target people, and then I invite them to workshops where I, give them a tremendous amount of value at no cost to them. The only cost is their time, right? And then at the end, I
How
ask
many
them
people typically how many
for,
people typically
20, 25 people. I keep the group small, and generally 2 or 3 hours on a weekend. And I make sure that they leave that workshop with, a huge amount of value and takeaway materials and frameworks and tools. And then of course there's a small sales pitch at the end if they are looking for more personalized work. So that's part of it. And then, I publish a weekly newsletter. I do a fair amount of content. I do a lot of networking, and a lot of my work is referral based, from people whose lives I've
why would you network?
Because that's a great question. I think the problem sometimes that we have is that, and I don't like calling it networking. I actually have a different term which I call help working. And so I always approach it, Sean, from the perspective of, I'm not here to get things from people. And I think, you and Tony and folks like that are great role models. I'm there to meet people, try and figure out what their pain points are, and then help them. And I find that the universe is a really interesting place.
Can I share something? So
Sure.
I'm super impressed by you. I mean it.
Thank you.
Really? You have
Appreciate it.
great certainty, clearly a really smart person. And you talked about authentic, straight delivery. So could I give you something? I promise you, 2 things that will be profoundly valuable. 2.
Awesome. Go for it.
First, every single person you meet wants one of 3 things. They want either more money,
Yeah.
or they want more time freedom and scaling of their business,
Yep.
or they want something emotional, more pride, more acknowledgement, more impact, more contribution. It's one of those three things. So
Yeah.
it distills down very rapidly. And this I figured out, brother, at 27 years into working and supporting people. I was a certified coach 21 years ago, but I've been working with people in the space for 27 years, right? So it distills down to very simple categories: money, time, or magic. I always say
Yep.
money, time, or magic, right? That's the first thing. The second thing is you're super brilliant. And I mean that. I'm not saying that facetiously. Think of the math, right? Think of the math of networking and randomly seeking the creation of relationship, right? Versus knowing that you, Patrick, can help people. I know you can help people generate more money and or do it in less time and or do it with more impact. Is that fair that you could do those three things, Patrick?
Absolutely. Totally
Yeah.
fair.
Yeah. And so if you know that everybody's looking for one of those three things, I love the workshops you're doing. My proposal to you would be pick up 2 partners for your workshops that are in compatible professions, accountants, lawyers, leverage. You bring 20, each of them bring 20, let them present as well. I have built so much in the world of small workshop, leveraging in a partnership and then scaling. And so what I would propose to you, because you resonate powerfully, really smart, clear, like I mean it. So it's not going to be difficult for you to pick up partners that have audiences. And you begin to pick up partners with audiences, the next thing you know, you're doing, 3,000 person webinars. So, those two pieces I would suggest, because I work and serve and support and known coaches and consultants for a long time. 99% really struggle to know what they're doing, as I'm sure you know. Clearly you don't. I hear it.
No, I've had plenty of struggles, Sean, believe me.
No, but
I've had plenty of struggles.
but
Been plenty of
you might be 2 small screw turns away from exponential acceleration. And I believe that those 2 screw turns I just shared will be profoundly helpful. And I'm here to serve, as you said. So thank you for that. Thank you for being you and for being here today, Patrick.
So just so I make sure I understood. So one screw is doing the workshops with others, and the other one was looking at the 3 things that people most want.
Knowing, and you,
right.
I would appreciate being quoted on it. That's okay, right? Because it's
I love it. No, I really love that, Sean. That's
money,
super clear. It's very powerful.
Everybody wants more money, and or they want it in less time, and or they want it with more magic, and everybody wants it in certain priority order. They want those 3 things in some priority order. Some people are magic first. I'm hearing Eli. I'm presuming magic first. For other people, it could be money first. Listen, there's nothing wrong with that. They're just in a place where they want to create some more financial abundance. That's, in fact, 85% of people that we meet in different environments want money first. Doctors, lawyers, accountants, all kinds of people. People tend to live paycheck to paycheck in America, right? And the least is, but still a percentage, people who want more time, freedom, and scaling. So it'd be like most people want money, a small group, but meaningfully larger than time is magic, and then some people time. And we do this in groups all the time and separate people to bring people present to what they want. So I would recommend as you bring people in your workshops that you divide them into groups. Who wants this, this, and this, and all of a sudden people feel seen, they feel present. You can take it from there. Sound good?
I love that. Money, magic, or time. That's great. No, look, that's super helpful, and I love your idea about partnering with others. Because obviously the more partners you work with, the more you can help them as well, right? So everybody wins. So that for me is the motto. And that's super helpful, man. I appreciate the feedback. I know it's coming from a really good place, and I really admire what you've achieved and how much help you've been for people. So that's awesome. That's
I've only made more mistakes than like 99% of people. So we learn from. Thank you, brother.
Yeah, but you're a lot more humble than 99% of people, and humility goes a long way. So
thank you. Yeah. Appreciate that. Eli, super impressed, brother, by what you've done in the world. Mean that sincerely. I've had the blessing and privilege of knowing some of the names that you mentioned and doing some things with them. To have achieved what you achieved is the example of possibility, the personification of everything we're talking about. So Eli, thank you for being here today. And how was your experience on the Heart of Influence? Great job as Tony.
I've had a great time here. Going back to, I think what Patrick said is, people don't want to be sold. And unfortunately, everybody goes about their business trying to sell people. So having a different format where you're kind of playing a game and you're getting to know people is a much, much stronger way, I think, to get people to play in your sandbox without having to kind of push them. Because certainly nobody wants to be pushed, nobody wants to be cajoled, nobody wants to be talked into things, and nobody wants to have fancy lines. Now, I know we didn't get a chance to critique Ricardo, but very quickly, and I thought he did a very, very good job because he asked a lot of great questions. What I wouldn't do is, start the conversation by saying before you hang up, because it's almost like, well, I'm kind of the kind of guy that deserves to be hung up on, but please don't do that. So, come in with a little bit more confidence than that, I think. And also, when she said, we'll wait till January, of course, you never want to disagree with somebody or make them feel like defensive. So you say, that would be perfectly fine. However, may I suggest to you, by the time we meet in January, we're already maybe talking about doing something in February or March, and you just wanted to sit out of the holidays. So would you mind at least tentatively scheduling something right now, maybe for next week? How would that sound? So by using the word tentative, you let them off the hook. But again, this format is fantastic because you don't have to have that kind of pressure conversation. You only got 3 minutes, and it's either do or die. So I want to commend you, Sean, for having such a great format here.
Well, brother, Eli, thank you. And as I'm sure all the folks here believe, I'm certain you do, is that sometimes the worst of circumstances can really be working for us. So COVID hit about a month after our inaugural unblinded event. We had 1,300 people at the event. And then COVID hit and shut the world down. And it looked like Unblinded was over, like just after we got off the launching pad. And I sat down and said to myself, well, how can we continue to meet people effectively? And I said, all business is built on shared experiences, and all shared experiences all relationships are built on shared experiences. And the question becomes, what's the most efficient shared experience that we could possibly have? And so it was like this. And so it was a compressed version of what I used to do at dinners at the Capitol Grill in a private room with people. And we innovated. And we really have run 1,500 episodes now. And it's been remarkable. And COVID obviously is over for years. And we still do this 2 to 3 times a day, every day, meeting awesome people like yourselves. So thank you for joining the ecosystem of 8,000 people been on the show. And we're not stopping anytime soon. And Eli, again, wonderful contributions today. And thank you, sir.
Thank you, Sean.
Thank you. Belvrita, we got like chess champions from Siberia. We got heart-centered people trying to help their brothers stop smoking. Over to you.
Yes, we do. Speaking of Siberian chess players, let's go. Arunya, how was your time with us on Glenn and team Heart of Influence?
Awesome. I'm grateful for this opportunity to be around like-minded people. And I think it's always useful to hear others presenting and giving feedback and learning something from that.
Awesome. Arunya, thank you so much. And do you ever play online chess, Arunya?
Not now. It was in my past. But my dad still sends me the pictures of how he's winning, so I'm supporting him.
That's awesome. Congratulations on your mastery, and thanks for being here today. And Bella, in final.
We'll go. Mark had such an inspirational conversation with his brother. I think I'm going to send you to talk to the dog Emily, as she is broken out of her crate. I think I need to send her to Tony Robbins, Sean, as I'm trying to manage her day of the show. But Mark, how was your time with us on the Heart of Influence?
One thing I really loved about this is, so it was great because I took a risk. I've never thought about role playing that kind of conversation. And what was interesting is you played the opposite of my brother. My brother will be pumped to hear me call. He will be like super down. And what was great about that was it got me thinking about, it really forced me to think about the conversation differently. Because I thought about, well, where are the moments where he is, and I like that, where he is looking for magic versus time versus money. And I know going to the Tony Robbins framework, the real thing is this is going to challenge his certainty. And I really liked being able to listen through that, hear that, and get some feedback because I wrote some notes on how I'm going to do this a little bit differently already, just spending time thinking about it. And I really appreciated, Ricardo, listening to how you go through your sales script. You know, I do sales in my business, and it was nice to hear that feedback as well. I just like being in an environment like this. And I think it's great to have a place where you can leave with your heart too. I think it's absolutely beautiful. So thank you.
Mark, great job. May I share, just in service of you and your brother, one quick thought? Would that be okay with you?
Absolutely not, Sean. There's no way you can share only one quick thought. I want two of them.
No, thank you. So one of the things that Tony says is to be really careful coming out of the event and looking to change other people. So you could, a thought, it's extraordinary, Mark. And I've made every mistake imaginable, right? Of my personal development journey over 27 years. I'm not saying you're making a mistake. I would just really make sure your brother doesn't like shift into a frame of Mark went to Tony Robbins and now Mark's gonna try to change me, and creating friction between your brother's potential relationship with Tony, personal development, and you. So be really, really mindful of how you connect next with your brother. And it might almost be best, and I've never done a drug in my entire life, to smoke cigarettes or smoke weed with him, whatever, just to make sure you maintain like deep rapport with him, and perhaps move in gently into this conversation of support of him to make sure that it doesn't go too fast and he creates some really negative associations that really build a wall between you. So just a thought, you know, and how you approach it. I've seen a lot of super excited people just want to help and serve everyone coming out of any personal development event, and certainly including UPW, which is such a gateway event to, you know, Tony World. So just a thought. So I pray about it, think about it, meditate about it, whatever resonates with you, how you approach it.
Sean, if you don't mind, can I add like one sentence to that? I think it's beautiful what you shared. I'm just that sister that is always a loser in the family, and all the family is like looking at me and constantly like wanting something that I don't want from like my life. I want to live my life like the way I want, and they all like insist that I do what they want me to do. So, and then there was a moment when I told them that they should stop doing it, and the moment they stopped like convincing me to change my life, I changed it. So maybe you just like accept him for who he is, and maybe this is what he wants. Like he's craving love, unconditional love from others. And then once that's happening, he will know that there is no one other than him to save him.
And we never go this long, Arun. You couldn't. Sage Robbins, Tony's wife's sister. So Sage's sister, right? Tony's sister-in-law was a heroin addict. And Tony and Sage couldn't stop it from happening. And direct story Sage told me, because my dad has a, you know, is an alcoholic. And so Sage and Tony at their house said, Sean, listen, like, here's the story. And Sage said it was after, it was not right after, it was like a couple of years after, she would start calling her sister up, like, hey, like, so how's heroin going? And, you know, I know you've been doing some prostituting, like, how's all that going? And literally just talking to her like they were talking about going shopping. And to Runya's point, like the unconditional love and presence, I'm not saying to do that with your brother. I'm not telling you directly what to do. I'm just expanding some considerations, Mark, for how you approach the situation, because I could feel your love and heart and just desire to like make good things happen for people. You exploded with it here. It's so beautiful. But if somebody's in a dark place, you know, it could be challenging. We teach about match energy, like match minus, rapport building, all kinds of beautiful things. So just a few considerations there. And I've said way more than too much. So thank you, Mark, and I pray for you and your brother. Right. The one and only Glenn Wagstaff, that's a dude to partner with. So for all of you, he's the man that made this happen. Drew Berman, the team, talk to these dudes about the things, life, where it's going, what you can co-create. Glenn Wagstaff, please, your final.
Well, this was fun. It was good to meet all of you virtually. We're looking forward to having follow-up conversations with many of you. Ricardo, we just did an event actually earlier today for realtors, and you know, how we can collaborate. And in Sean's world, we talk about ecosystem mergers, but we'd be, you know, super excited to continue the conversation. So thanks again for spending some time with us today, and we'll look forward to reaching out and continuing the conversation.
Awesome. And 3 gifts for everybody. One is our group influence book. Thanks to Glenn. Second is this Tuesday night. If there's, we're all here because we want more. Like, as we just said to Patrick a little bit ago, we'll have a vision of somewhere we're going, and we're somewhere and there's a gap. Hopefully we're enjoying the journey of that gap, but there's a level of acceptability or not. Like, hey, like, yeah, it's, I'm good, but it's unacceptable to not keep closing that gap. I'm a growth-minded person, and all of us have potential solutions, and sometimes the solutions are not the solutions that are going to get us there. So if you don't have it all like figured out yet, which none of us do, we've figured out a couple things that may be really valuable. So this Tuesday night is a 90-minute free webinar. We have a December 12th event in the great state of New Jersey. We'll have 1,000 people on December 12th. And this is a conversation about like your 2025, setting it up on Tuesday night. So if you felt some resonance energetically today, and there is that gap for you, there may be some real solutions there for you. And if not, we're super grateful for you having been here in the first place. Bella Rita, thank you. I know we're super late and you're working with Emily. So on behalf of Bella and I, we end every show by saying this: I may be physically blind, which I am, but I'm absolutely certain that the possibilities for closing those gaps often sit right in front of us. But at some level, sighted or not, Bella, we are all blind
And just learning to see. Bye-bye, everyone.